I just didn't understand why it should happen. I was admitted, say, 8 p.m. So by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. the next day, that was when the baby came out. And everywhere just went. In my head, silent. I remember when they saw that asking me, good to see you. What of baby? And I froze. I didn't know what to tell her. I tried as much as possible not to cry in front of people. But then when there's nobody at home, I'll go into the bathroom, lock the door, and I will bawl my eyes over. I would cry. It was exactly 8 months after the stillbirth.
8 months after?
Yes, I took it. And that, will it happen? Will it not happen? Will what happen again?
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. For medical advisory and care, please consult your healthcare provider. Welcome to the Road to Motherhood podcast, where we talk about all things becoming a mom. I'm happy to have another fantastic guest today to share her motherhood story, my dear friend, Toby. So Toby, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And Toby, just let everybody know a little bit about you. What do you do? How many kids do you have? And what are their ages?
Okay, thank you. My name is Toby Okonofwa. I'm an educator, voiceover artist, and most recently a businesswoman. Okay, so I have 3 kids. They are 7, 5, and 2.
7, 5, and 2.
Yes.
So 2 to 2 years. No, 3 years in between.
Yes, almost 3 years in between.
Okay, thank you. So Toby, we'll start from the beginning. I like to call that the conception phase. So when you got married, did you and your husband decide, okay, we want to have kids right away, let's get going? Or did you guys say, let's wait some time, a few years, let's enjoy ourselves first? I always love to know. So how did you guys start?
Okay, so we got married in 2013, and we really didn't have a detailed conversation about that. Okay. But we were open to having kids immediately, or stalling for a while and just enjoying ourselves or enjoying the honeymoon stage. But now, without planning, it took about a year and 1 month.
A year and 1 month?
Okay. Yeah, before conception happened. Now, for some reason, in that year, I was a bit apprehensive. Now, why? Even now, I don't know. But maybe because everyone around that time, all the people getting married around that time were probably conceiving and, having those pregnancy symptoms. And so I was a bit worried that it wasn't happening. My husband kept telling me, no, you don't have to bother, but I did bother. I think a little too much.
Okay, so in your mind, it shouldn't have taken up to 1 year?
Yes, it shouldn't have.
Okay. So once that happened and you got pregnant, right? How was that experience like for you? What was the pregnancy journey?
I was happy initially, and then the nausea started.
Mm-hmm. I can relate.
Yeah, I couldn't cook with onions. Yeah, so and then I had aversion to a couple of things, but onions was the strongest. So no spices, no onion. So I'd cook and then just run out of the kitchen. And usually I know I'm pregnant when I throw up. There's an initial throw up that happens. I think it usually happens at 6 weeks. So anything I eat,
you throw it up.
Yes, and once that happens, that's the last throw up ever. So it's always at the initial stage. So I just knew, okay. I mean, this is not normal for me to. So there are certain foods, if food isn't spicy enough sometimes, or if it has oil in it, especially palm oil. Growing up, I used to throw up. But then after I got over it. But then when I first got pregnant, I'm like, no, there's something different about this throw up. And that's how I knew.
Okay, so for all your pregnancies, you throw up around that 6-week period?
Yes, I
and
do.
Then you never throw up again?
No, I don't. But then after a while, there was spotting.
Okay.
Yeah, and funnily, the doctors also said they saw fibroids.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it came with so much pain, especially the second trimester. So there's just so much pain, and they told me I have to drink water. The fibroids were, they were not being nourished again, so they're fighting and whatever they said. And
Okay.
so there was always spotting, and so it wasn't a full, happy experience.
Okay.
And then there was a time that it was full blown, bleeding. And I remember a pharmacist and the doctor fighting and saying, no, you shouldn't have given her chloroquine. No, you should give her
Chloroquine,
yes.
malaria medicine.
Yes. And said, no, I mean, it was a serious argument in the hospital that day. All I just wanted to do was be fine and then just move on.
But why did they want to give you chloroquine? Did you have malaria?
Yes, I had. And they said it was quite high,
Okay.
like 2+. And, they wanted to save me first and, not the baby. But I think the pharmacist wanted both. And the doctor said, are you questioning me? All that went on. But then I carried on. The pain was still there. They asked me to keep drinking water. But the pregnancy didn't end in delivery.
Okay. So can you explain a bit more about that to us?
Okay, so at 8 months, I had a stillbirth. It wasn't a miscarriage. I had a stillbirth at 8 months. And I remember, so, first pregnancy, you're very excited. And we were living in some area. We needed to move closer to town. And it was the height of a certain government. So the move and the fact that a new baby was coming, we were just really excited. So we came into town. And then just a few months after that, my husband traveled. I was home. And next thing, I just noticed that some of the symptoms I have as a pregnant woman, I had swollen feet at that time. Everything just went down. It was more like I was being deflated. Everything.
So your feet
literally
swelling went down, everything.
Swelling, everything. So I was wondering what happened. And then, for the first time, many things you do not know. You learn as you go. And I checked and I didn't know. But then I left it, But then movement, I also didn't feel the baby's movement, after a while. And then later, I went to use the bathroom and I saw some, they call it blob. I was like, what's this? Like the plug was off and blob was coming out. I was like, what's this?
The mucus plug?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I called my husband and he just, so what's happening? And I told him, anyway, he was coming in from Niger State that day. I went to the hospital. And, this is where the story gets interesting. Got to the hospital and then God bless our health workers. It just went, why are you just coming now? Why did you go? How am I supposed to know I'm supposed to come in? This is my first time. And the next thing is, okay, go do an x-ray. I go do the x-ray. And then the man is calling in someone else and saying, so you see this, you see that. That's why this. Oga, what is happening? Only for him to tell me that the baby is dead. I'm like, no. Are you guys joking? How can the baby be dead and all? So it was a potpourri of emotions. It's like, baby is dead. And then this man is using me to explain medical terms to someone else.
Like a student doctor or something?
I don't even know, really. Now I don't know. And then it's like, so, no baby, really? I thought that was all. Now they said, because it had gone this far, I needed to be induced. And, there were some people around me then. And thank God for good support system. But did they also want to tell me the gravity of what being induced meant? And here is why sometimes being naive has its own, what would you say now? It has its own... Yeah, it has its own advantages. Because I was just, okay, trying to be in good spirits and until the process started. I have never in my life thought that metal will be my friend. I held on to the metal.
The metal of the bed.
It was cold, and if I could squeeze that metal, I'd have squeezed it. It was painful. It was the most painful thing that I'd ever experienced. And the doctor said they couldn't help me. They couldn't help me because they couldn't help me bring out the baby, because the baby was not formed well, And then several things happened before then. I'd been going for antenatal, and all of it. I just didn't understand why it should happen. They brought out the baby. I was admitted, say, 8 p.m. So by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. the next day, that was when the baby came out. And, everywhere just went. In my head, silent. We were 3 women in the ward, and the other 2 had their babies. And I was the only one who didn't have my baby. And so I was just staring, And then it was like, don't worry, madam, you have another one. And in my mind, I'm like, why should this happen to me? Why? What did I do? It was an interesting time. And thank God one can laugh about it now. It was quite an interesting time. Young girl just got married, expecting the best out of life, and then to go through this. And then after that, left the hospital, and there was something that happened that made me laugh. Before I got home, they tried to hide the baby things. Maybe they thought I would be emotional and all that. So you come home, empty space. I looked at the baby things, just ran through it with my fingers and like, okay, so where do we go from here?
Yeah.
But interestingly, my neighbor just had a baby.
Your neighbor?
Yes. My neighbor just had a baby. And I could hear, madam, congratulations, madam, congratulations. And you hear just, when they see you, madam, sorry, you. And I hate that word. I hate pity party. But, and then everywhere, you just hear the cry of babies. Everywhere, you just hear the cry of babies. And so I tried as much as possible not to cry in front of people. But then when there's nobody at home, I'll go into the bathroom, lock the door, and I will bawl my eyes over. I would cry. And then when I finish, I'd pour water over my face, come out, and let's continue. And to know that God was there all the while. He was watching. He was watching. And he now gave an instruction and said, go and give out your baby things. Some of them. He actually said, go and give your neighbor your baby things. And I didn't know. Would she collect it? I mean, this woman just lost her baby. Let's not be that she wants to kill my own baby. People have
superstitious beliefs. Like, would she be comfortable
superstitious
taking
beliefs
the
about
items?
the whole thing? But I was like, okay, it's an instruction. I will carry it out. So I went to her, madam, congratulations. And I gave her the clothes. And I didn't know how she was going to react. But some days later, I saw the baby wearing it. And it gladdened my heart, really. It gladdened my heart. And what's even most important was, in that time, God was telling me, don't stay enclosed in your pain. So reach out to people. I gave out baby things. Well, maybe not everything, but I gave out baby things. Carry babies, And I remember my first outing out of that situation. And it's as if you're learning to walk again. It's like you're crippled, like your life stopped and you're learning to walk. I remember plastering a smile on my face and coming in. I still have that picture in my head. And as we sat down, one of my friends who just got married around that time, I was pregnant, had a baby. I remember my husband carrying that baby. And I just, wow. I mean, this is how life is. And as I said, thank God for good support system. My mom just she would come, pray with us and say, I see babies in here. I see babies. So don't worry, it won't be long. I see babies. That was quite comforting. My mother-in-law told me, I know this hurts. And, in all of that, you had engorged breasts, so my mother-in-law is a retired midwife, so she had to help me, attend to that. I know all the feelings of not, of a newly, a mom who just, mom, really, but then no baby. So it hurts. But in all of that, she said, go and make your hair look good. That's not the end of life.
Your mother-in-law?
Yeah. And I did. I went to make my hair. And I moved on. And there was something profound someone told me. She said, now this has happened. This is what you're going to do. She was matter-of-factly. She said, what you're going to do now is get a journal. Write. You are a Christian. You're not on the defensive. You have to be on the offensive. That has happened. Now you would decide how you want your baby to come, when you want your baby to come, what you want to see in your baby. Forget what has happened. And I said, okay. And I did it. Now, that was before I even knew there were books you could read, like supernatural childbirth and all that. So I took a journal and I started writing. I want to see this, I want to see that, I want to see this, I want to see that. So I wrote all of that. And then, expectation. And I'll go to church and the pastor would say, I see there was a particular day. So also you now had to deal with what to tell people. And what the Holy Spirit said is, maintain your joy. How do you want to maintain joy now? How do you want to maintain joy in all of this? So I said, okay, I will. So I'll go to church. I remember one day someone asking me, good to see you. What of baby? And I froze. I didn't know what to tell her. And then my husband quickly, answered. And then something else was that I was led to come to the front of the church and dance. And, especially in Abuja, we're quite conservative. I mean, just come and I mean the David kind of dance where you as we say in our local parlance, dance and forget body. And, okay, I came out and I would dance. I wouldn't look at anybody's face. I would dance. I don't even know, thinking about it. If my husband was embarrassed, he never mentioned it when I would come. I'll come out and I'll dance. I'll dance at the altar. And then, you're dancing and then somebody is, or maybe you're worshiping, and somebody is coming and, rubbing your back. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm not in a bad place. I'm okay. And so I'll do that. And word of knowledge kept coming. So there was one I think it was in December, word of knowledge came. And, pastor said, God is going to give you double for your trouble. And, it was so exciting and everything. I was really happy. And so after that, people came up to me like, congratulations. I mean, there was a time pastor even said, except I'm not a man of God. But you see this, it's going to happen. And I was happy. So this was December. So December, I was expecting the end of December night to happen. It did not. So this was December 2016. 2015, it didn't happen. I was like, okay, come January. And then I think I got upset. And I said, God, what's happening now? You gave word of knowledge in December. And by January, this thing is supposed to happen. And God's response was quite a shocker. God knows our temperaments and how to deal with his children. And he said, whose definition of time are you looking at? He says, I am time. I can't forget. He says, I am time. I am the author of time. If I said I would do it, I would do it. It's none of your business when or how I would do it. Honestly, it was, and I could feel literally the discipline in his voice. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Okay, let me not go and pass my boundary. and I left it. I said, I'm sorry. I actually apologized and I let it go. In February, I was in the neighbor's house, and it seemed like the time of the month. So I was upset when I noticed. So I started having, menstrual cramps. I said, God. Okay. So I went up and I was like, okay, that means I have to get sanitary towels. And I go use the bathroom, expecting by the next day there is a flow. Next day, no flow. Okay. So I wait. Now in this time, we just didn't, we weren't just there. God told me to always worship, and then there was something else. I would hold some of the baby clothes I had, and I would dramatize having a baby. So it was a 2-bedroom flat. The other room was empty. So I would dramatize having a baby. I would dance with the baby. So now when, like Hallelujah Challenge, say dress like your miracle. I mean, back then this is real. So I hold the baby and, dance, and sometimes pretend like I'm backing a baby. It was foolish. To say the least, it looked really foolish. But I did it. Sometimes I'll rub baby powder on my face, just in expectation of what God was going to do. And so, back to my story, February. I was waiting now, like, okay, let the thing come now. And then before then, because of the fibroids and then water in the sac and all that, one doctor actually said he was going to go all the way to do an autopsy on the baby, the dead baby,
Okay.
to find out what might have happened. He just felt that was his way of helping
Consolation,
out.
something.
Yes. And then he gave me some drugs and said I should take them. So I was about to take them. And then there was a word of knowledge that came that said, there's someone you want to take. It was a prayer group. It was a prayer group. You want to take some medication, please don't. I didn't think it applied to me because, and the word of knowledge said, you're already pregnant. But I wasn't pregnant now. But I just reached out and said, oh, is this? And she said, no, please don't take it or don't take it. I said, okay. And then I waited for a period. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, day 3, day 4. Okay. And apprehension, and then you're just waiting, you're wondering. And so the menstrual cycle, to tell you 28 days, 30 days. So we waited until the 40th day. We waited. I remember it was a Sunday morning. I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. And we were so excited. We were super duper excited. So it was exactly 8 months after the stillbirth.
8 months after.
Yes, I took it. And that, will it happen? Will it not happen? Will what happen again? And all of that. But, God is an amazing God. There's so many facets of God that we haven't even been able to fathom, not even imagine how wonderful and how good He is. And so he still followed up with dreams. I would see a dream of very fresh egg. And God speaks to me through dreams. And I know those dreams are not maybe just a figment of my imagination, fresh eggs. And I'll ask my husband, what do you think about this? And, egg is life and, all of that. So, and interestingly, this baby was so healthy that even at 40 weeks, the baby refused to come out. The baby refused to come out. Like, the baby, how you see, the baby was intact, nothing.
Enjoying life.
I literally had to walk from So I'm trying to calculate the distance, maybe from here to, I don't know, but it was quite a distance, maybe like a kilometer. And people were just looking at me on the streets like, now wow, preggy, or, all that. But baby didn't come out. So the baby came out at 40 weeks, 5 days. They actually had to bring the baby out. So from, having a stillbirth to God just taking control, and we didn't have to do anything special. I did not take all those, special supplements. It was just the usual iron and fesolate, and I know the word of God really, and that's what just kept us until the first, that they could say rainbow baby or something, after you've gone through
Baby that you have after you've gone through a
yes,
miscarriage.
after you've gone through a miscarriage, yeah,
Or a stillbirth.
or a stillbirth, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Just thank you so much, because I don't take for granted that this is your personal story and you're willing to come and share that for the awareness of other women and to also help educate other women too. So thank you so much. I want to acknowledge something you kept referring to that I think is very important, especially for anybody that is somebody who is a faith-filled person and believes in God and believes that God is real. You kept saying that throughout your experience, your tough experience of having a stillbirth, because it's tough. It has to be tough. I can only imagine. It has to be very tough. Through that experience, you kept getting a word of knowledge, a word from God, telling you different things to encourage you, telling you to maintain your joy in the midst of sorrow, which I'm coming to learn in life that those things can exist. Like, you can actually maintain joy in the midst of chaos and madness happening around,
Yes.
whatever that looks like. You were told to maintain your joy. I'm sure it felt difficult.
Of course
I can only imagine. But I can imagine the difficulty that you felt, but you did it anyways. You were told, give away some clothes and other items of your baby that you had bought. You did that. You were told to leave God's timing to God. Because, as human beings, we want to fit our timing and say, God, make our timing your timing.
Yes.
Which is also, I'm human, I understand. But you did it. So I just want to commend you for continuously listening to the instruction of God throughout. And because that's maintaining faith. Faith is also obeying the instruction of God when he tells you to do something, even if it makes no sense to you and it doesn't feel good for you. So thank you. I think that will encourage a lot of people who maybe their faith is wavering in one area of life or not, or they need faith to be built in them. Like, faith looks like obeying God when he tells you to do something, even when it doesn't make sense to you.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad that the story turned for the better.
Yeah.
So please, you can continue and let us know, how did your subsequent pregnancies now come about?
Okay.
Like, how are those?
Okay. And when you just said, thank God it ended, happily. The Bible says the path of the righteous shines, brighter and brighter. So after that, and this is interesting. So I'm not, well, all the family planning people, let them not come after me.
That's fine. We are all allowed to have our beliefs.
So we didn't plan. After that, we didn't plan and say, okay, so after 2 years or after 3 years, as you rightly noted, the pregnancies or the time in between the kids are like 2 years, 6 months, 2 years, 8 months. So after that, we're just happy, baby here and everything. And I got some sort of promotion at the office. And next thing, I realized I was pregnant again. So this was, 2 years. My first was 2 years, 6 months, or 2 years, 8 months. I'm not so sure when I took in again. Now, the second pregnancy was, I didn't know if I was ready, because I had just ordered for some clothes and, I wanted to fit in. I was really feeling good, and especially for my new position, only to find out that, I'm pregnant. Whoa. So you can imagine me going from God, when to, God should have waited small now. So you just see the human mind, how we think, and it's beautiful to know that God is absolute and he knows what we want, and he knows what he also knows what he wants for us. And so he always balances it out. And so I was pregnant again, but this time it was a bit, now given the circumstances, I wasn't ready. And then, yeah, my second really disturbed me. So conception, just happened. And then, interestingly, my husband always knows when I'm pregnant, and I don't. So he looks at me and says, "You're pregnant." And I'm like, "How, please?" But truly, I was pregnant, and I didn't even know until I took a test and I noticed it was. But then I was wondering, am I ready? Do I really want to do this? And then with the new job, I thought it was going to be a big deal. But, I braced in. Same thing, nausea, same thing, first throw up.
And then no more.
Yeah, and then no more. But for some reason, it was a bit, for lack of a better word, the pregnancy disturbed me. It disturbed me. Now, not in spirit or anything, but it was quite a tough one,
Physically?
Yeah, physically. So, because I just didn't get myself. The first 3 months, I didn't like vegetable soup. If I smelled vegetable soup, I was going to be so nauseous, and I couldn't stand the smell of vegetable soup. So many things. I couldn't just put myself together. But then by the second trimester, usually after 8 weeks, I get myself, and then I had, as I said, I was promoted. So the demands of the job was more rigorous for me, and it wasn't quite, I don't know, at that time I was like, I wasn't so interested in the pregnancy. And I was a bit worried. I said, so this is not good. I hope when the child comes, I won't have issues, loving the child. That was actually what I felt, loving the child. And I said, God, just change the sex so that it would be easy so I would know that having this baby now was worth it. So baby came, and there's something they call in Yoruba, atawewe. Atawewe is very peppery, pepper. That's how I would describe the way she cries. She was like anything she wanted at that time. Now, secondly, this was my second CS.
Okay. So we'll get to the birth experiences, but please go ahead.
Okay, so I wasn't really in a good place even when she was born, because she was crying, and then I was in pain, and I was... So I didn't like it, but she was just the most beautiful baby girl I've ever seen. And I looked, it's like, okay, second beautiful girl, she came with her own demands, and I knew she was going to be quite an opinionated person, just from the way she cried. And then there was something else they mentioned about her eyes, something about jaundice, and all that. But I mean, we were able to go through that, having been the first time mom, so we're ready for the second. And then she used to disturb the whole neighborhood. She cried a lot. So it was good. I was happy, beautiful baby girl. And
sorry, just before you continue, disclaimer to anybody watching, Toby and I attend the same church, and I've met her children. And she's right. Her daughter is very beautiful and lovely. And she has a mouth on her in the best of ways. Like, she's very bold and respectful.
Exactly.
And she just, I remember her coming up and talking to me and just being very kind. So, yeah.
Okay, and so for the third, of course, we were already dubbed the girl mom, girl dad, because we had 2 girls. And then I felt I had closed shop. But, of course, still no family planning. And so 2 years later, or 2 years plus later, my husband tells me again,
You're pregnant.
And then I look at him and, oh, please, I can't be. And you need to understand that this was quite a different period. I mean, what do you call it now? Lockdown had happened, and he was away in another town. He had stuff to do. So it was me with the children constantly. And so that's, in itself was not easy for me. He is a very hands-on dad. Even from where he was, he would always call, find out what's happening. But, it's different from when you are present. So and he says, so when he came around, and then when he was about to leave, and he says, "You're pregnant." And truly, I was pregnant. But this time I told God, I said, "God, okay, for this baby, I love to have conversations with God, about children. I believe you don't just, they are not, you don't just pop them out like chocolates or something. They are special." And I always have this image of God asking you, "So these are my gifts. What did you do with them?" I said, "God, I'm okay with two now. Why a third one? I'm not interested." And I said, "Except if you're going to change the sex." Because I didn't know what to do with three girls. The two that already have them and dealing with me. Girls, they can't talk. And then the third pregnancy was quite interesting. So I went to work, and I was doing something that required me to stand almost the whole day. So I go to use the restroom, and I'm bleeding. And I wasn't happy about it. Oh my God, I'm bleeding. What's happening? And so quickly when I got back home, I went to a lab. Now, first of all, the person I met in the lab was quite rude. I don't know what happened. And then he looks to me and says, he asks some silly questions, and I just rolled my eyes. So after the scan, he says, there's no pulse, there's no heartbeat, and blah, blah, blah. So I should come back in 2 weeks. No heartbeat care.
In 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks. So you can imagine. So I was like, but I said, "God, I didn't ask for a baby. You are the one that's giving me. I can't be going through, now that I've accepted that, yes, I'm going to have another baby, I can't be going through this." So as I was going out of that place, it was close to my house, the Holy Spirit said, "Go and meet that woman selling roasted corn. Buy corn and eat and go home." So I go there, buy corn, I eat it very well, and I go home. And, I get home, and you must know this was at 7 weeks. I said, I don't just, they say Google is not your friend. Google is not where you should go. But the Holy Spirit directed me to Google. And I was going through Google. I saw women saying, yes, they've gone to do scans, and they tell them there's no baby, there's no this. So when I called my husband said, "Please, there's baby. When I come back, we'll go and do that test." And I said, okay. So I said, "God, how far now?" So backstory. My husband didn't just say you're pregnant. He said you're pregnant and it's a boy. So now you must know that I have 2 girls already. So I'm excited about the prospect of a different sex. Not necessarily because I wanted a boy as in, cultural value placed to having a boy. I just, just different. And I said, okay. So he comes back. And interestingly, the devil is horrible. That's just, he's a liar. Do you know, after what that guy told me, I came back home and all the symptoms I had of pregnancy disappeared.
Like the first experience?
Yes, as if the devil was, everything disappeared. Even when I tried to brush and, I feel like, I feel like gagging up, nothing. I said, But then I said, "God, you gave me this." And there's this song by Apostle Iren, Zoe, "The Life of God in Me." The Holy Spirit directed me I started playing that song. Zoe, 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 Zoe. This life that I have is the life of God in me. And that song is powerful. So it strengthened me. So my husband comes back and he says, "Let's go use another lab." And I go
another lab, not the one where they told you that they couldn't hear a heartbeat.
Yes. So I go to the lab and we sit down. And when it was my turn, I go in. And he said, "Hey, madam, what did they say is the problem?" I said, I was still trying to explain. He said, "Madam, lie down here." I laid down. And then, he said, "Madam, see your baby on the screen. Your baby is fine. There's nothing wrong. The heartbeat is strong." And I just started laughing. And he says to me, "I've been doing this for over 16 years. Madam, please go. Your baby is fine." And I just knew it was just God who used him. Because really, it's not about how many years you've been doing this. If I had come with a problem, you would tell me a different story. So I just laughed, like Sarah laughed. I laughed, and I was, happy. And then from then on, it was just God showing himself. Now, I must mention that during that period, it was a tough one. It was a very tough period. Very tough period. Like, in all my years, I always boast, to God that I am God's favorite child. But in that period, it seemed like, when it seemed that Jesus, when God abandoned Jesus on the cross, he sent him to go and die on the cross. And then he saw all the sin on him. And now said, no, this is too much. And even Jesus had to cry, why did you forsake me? That's literally what happened.
It felt like that.
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt I was abandoned.
So when you say that's what it felt like, can you give us just a bit more detail? Like what exactly was making it so tough?
So financially, in all ramifications. So it seemed like it was like a Job experience. When you see it's just beautiful that you can laugh about some of these things now. Say nothing. We went from 2 cars to no car. 2 cars to no car. And the interesting thing, I have to take a bike all through that pregnancy. And I mean all through to the junction to link up with my colleague who will take me to work. So in the circumstances that I was going through, that baby should have dropped. I should have had a miscarriage or something. I'll take a bike every single day. Stress. Like and I have to leave the house at 6:30 every morning. When you see bad things happen, like one after the other, the other, they just kept happening. I was like, Even before we gave birth to that child, as at a week before, we had not bought baby things. I'll literally cry. Like, God, why now? I had not paid for delivery stuff. I had not paid for anything. And I must tell you that this wasn't as a result of carelessness. This wasn't as a result of not working hard. You know how things just happen. You can't explain. And it's not something you could pray away or say, okay, it's because you didn't pray well. It wasn't. It wasn't. It even seemed like the more you pray, the more it happens. The more you pray, the more it happens. And so the day baby was, a week before, my husband and I were in the room and we're like, where are we going to get money for this baby to come? You see God there. God works in mysterious ways. Like, I don't think I understand how Abraham walked with God in faith. But, I mean, there's a sneak preview through my life. Can just imagine. And for every step of the way, you know that analogy, or it's a video when you take the first step, and then you now see
something come up for you to take the next step.
For you to take the next step.
Take each step, the next step shows up. Or the
and
next,
I'm like, at some point I said, God, why does it have to be yours now? And in that period, God gives me a name for this baby coming. And, he says, and it was a Yoruba name. That's not his first name, but that's the name he gave. He says he'll be called Tirenioluwa. Tirenioluwa means, and, I'm Yoruba. My husband is Edo. And Tirenioluwa means it is God who has it. It's God's own. He is God's own. And that's what he told me. And other things he told me about him. But he said, this belongs to me. And so, God, this one belongs to you, but no money now. How would he come? And so, that same week, by Thursday, I was supposed to go to the hospital, I think Saturday. By Thursday, some morning my husband has been expecting. now comes. We now go get baby things, get baby wardrobe, and wanted to change the baby wardrobe. We had one baby wardrobe, and all of that. But then there's still no money for delivery. What do we do? And then we pray again. A friend now comes. So what's remaining now? And you need to understand that in all of this, God deals with people differently. But the way he deals with us, he does not give you permission to ask anyone. Now, that sentence might be controversial, but it's a different case when you have to share your burden with people.
When you're led by the Holy Spirit to share it with someone.
Yes, but we were not led. All he says is, trust me. And then people are asking you, what's remaining? If I want to talk, my husband will look at me and say, everything is fine, everything is fine. And so that day, I think it was that day, we checked into the hospital. We didn't still have that money. And the next day was the surgery to bring out the baby.
Without paying for the delivery.
Yeah. So we brought our things, we arranged. And we were, how many of us in the room? It was a ward. So about 10. And let me shock you. I was the first person to be wheeled into the theater.
They didn't even give you time to be able to go and get the money, Abby? Or you're saying you're the first person as in the baby was coming quickly? Okay, you paid. Okay, sorry, please go ahead.
How did we pay? So we were in the hospital the day before. And, we are here now. And then one of our friends just called. Send your account number. Because she's been asking, nobody's been saying anything. And then she sent the exact amount we need to pay. When I mean exact amount, I mean there was no fraction, but it wasn't like a whole number. There was some fives, exact amount.
Wow.
And that was how we paid. And that was how I was the first, from not having the money. Because these things, I was looking at everybody and like, this one, see bath, see this, see that, everything is ready, people coming in, hey, you've paid, okay, go and receipts, so everyone's ready. And then I'm here. And then the next day, you just come and say, Mrs. Okonofa, yeah, come. So that night, we were able to pay. And after that, God just blew our minds, really. Just blew our minds from people just coming from different places, coming to visit. God just blew our minds literally from that time. I remember we still didn't have a car. And when I say this, not that people are not on that level, but from not having, that's, from not having. And
it can be a shock.
Yeah.
Too,
and then some people can deal with it. And especially in the area where we are, where people see you when you had. I mean, there was even some incidences that happened that made me say, see, if it's this bike, God, you keep me on this bike. I'd have to wait to join some people to work. And there's this, some sort of attitude about it. I said, and the only reason I did that was, at least let's stay safe. You know how sometimes being on the bike, and it's not a smooth road. But then I said, God, it is either you take care of me or you take care of me. That bike, sometimes, it's even showering. And you have to get to work at a certain time. And that pregnancy was... And my pregnancies are usually interesting. It's so interesting that someone from antenatal for my second recognized me the third time. Because my tummy is always like this. Like a trailer. It's always like this, really long. And then you just see me, waddling and she said, I remember you. It was, so third experience, really.
Thank you so much. As you're talking, there's something that was just making me smile, both externally and internally. You kept saying, the Holy Spirit told me, God told me, the Holy Spirit told me. And that's a clear testament to somebody who is walking by faith. You're in communion with God. You're communing. You have conversations. You hear what He's saying. You respond. You say, God, it's either you take care of me or you take care of me. Like, you are having actual communication and engagement. You have a relationship. So I'm so excited that you explained that part of your story, because I think sometimes we don't understand that knowing God is to have a relationship.
Yeah.
He speaks to you, you hear, and you speak back, you commune, and you obey instructions. That's the faith aspect. So I'm just so excited that you're sharing that, because that's what it looks like to walk with God. You're actually walking with God. So you know when you were saying you don't think you can really understand Abraham, I think you can. I think you can. To your own level, right?
Yeah, to my own level.
I think you can.
Yeah, because his shoes are quite, quite
Abraham's
big.
shoes they're big shoes to fill.
They are.
Yeah, but you definitely can, because to go and check into that hospital, you don't know how you're going to pay for delivery.
Yeah.
Delivery is the next day. No, you can understand it. It's definitely faith. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so encouraged by that. So encouraged. Okay, so if we can talk now about your childbirth experiences.
Yeah.
Any, just generally, I'd love to know, what were they like? Did you have vaginal unmedicated experiences? Did you have vaginal with medicine, epidural, or did you have CS? You've already mentioned earlier that you had CS, but you can just walk us through all three of them. Okay,
So all my kids, I had them through CS. It was just the stillbirth, and because of the circumstance, that was vaginal. But the three of them, CS.
Now, how was that experience like? I'd love to know, because everybody has a different CS experience to some degree, I guess.
CS, wow. And then I'm hearing some people have had 6 CS.
You had 3. 3 is still quite a number.
First one, and then the hospital I use, those women there, after the first day, they tell you, oh yeah, sit up, go and take your bath.
Okay, the next day.
Exactly. Usually my orientation was, they'll give you a while. They don't allow you, be laid back. They'll sit up. So you have to sit up and, try till the pain gets easy. First CS was okay. Now you can imagine being torn in the same place the second time. A friend of ours, he's a medical doctor, came in to say hi. I was begging him. I said, please, give me painkillers. I can't. And the only painkiller, I think he was being careful. The only painkillers they gave me was paracetamol. Either injection, or the one you pop. But they won't give you anything more. They didn't even give me ibuprofen. And I think it had to do with just giving birth, or maybe they didn't want me to be addicted to it. So he now tells me, okay, I'll get you Coco Damo. But he never did.
That's a stronger pain medicine.
Yeah, but he never did. And I think because it has a bit of codeine in it, I know. But I cried though. I cried. The second one was painful. And then the heal-up process was tough. It was quite painful.
Now, when the CS was taking place, right, did you feel anything, or did the epidural work? Okay,
so the second time, the epidural worked, but I felt, when the second time, the pain didn't come, but you could feel that doctor,
Pressure?
Yeah, pressure. The doctor was tightening, when you sew up. So when you finish sewing up now, you need to tighten. So the point where he was tightening, I could feel it, because I could feel the vibrations and
feel the impact.
Yeah, and I was telling my husband, I said, this is going to be quite painful when the epidural wears off. And it was, because it was at the corner. It really was. Then the third time, So I think as your body gets used to the epidural, the third time, by the time they opened me up, I screamed.
You mean while you were on the table?
Yes, because I felt it. Now that experience, like the pain was coming. So it's there. It's somewhere there. And so when they used, the instrument first.
You felt it?
I shivered.
Okay.
And then they were like, oh. So they will now tap my leg. Are you still feeling? Are you still feeling? But there was something it was discomforting. I could, the pain was there.
So the epidural's effect wasn't as strong the third time?
It wasn't as strong the third time.
Okay.
It wasn't. So
was it the same hospital?
Yes, the same hospital.
In Abuja here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
First time, a different hospital. The other two, was same hospital.
Okay.
And it was painful. And then to add to that, they said my blood pressure was up. And I never in my life had experienced high blood pressure. So that was the first time. And it didn't go down.
You mean it didn't go down that day, or?
It didn't go down that day.
Okay.
It was quite high. They were worried. And I think it had to do with the pain. Because
Okay.
I was...
You were tensed, you were feeling it.
I was tensed.
Okay.
I was tensed.
Wow, kudos to you. Kudos to you, because, again, I can only imagine. Well, actually, I can't imagine. I experienced my own in a different way. but kudos to you, because I think it's even psychological on your part. You expect that once they put that epidural, you're not going to feel anything again.
And then the shock you receive when
and then
you
the shock
feel it.
when you feel something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strong women. Women are strong. Women are strong,
actually.
Women.
And I hear the pain of delivery is in the intensity of pain. Okay, drowning is first, has the highest intensity.
Drowning, okay.
Yeah, drowning. And the next one is
childbirth. In some cases, some people have smooth, sweet experiences.
I think they cover up. Because whichever way, I think they cover up. I'm not saying you won't have it, but I think they cover up. You feel pain.
Do you know why I'm laughing?
We have different thresholds.
Go ahead. I think, we have different thresholds of pain,
and
right?
Whether it's, vaginal birth or CS, you feel the pain. The intensity of the pain at the beginning or at the end, you will meet it.
I think it's a debate. That's one for a debate with a group of women who have all delivered. Some who said they had fantastic experiences, some who didn't.
Yeah, because Hebrew women experience. We're all Hebrew women.
No, because some people, honestly, their experience it wasn't painful. It was pleasurable. To some, even to the level of just a bit of pressure, and then it was just there.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. But I think the take home is that whichever way, it's a miracle.
That is it. However,
it's happened.
It's a miracle at the end of the day.
Because I've heard a woman saying, if I want to just get pregnant, I know I'll just tell Oga. I'm like, I just tell Oga. It's a miracle that's how it happens for you. But you shouldn't use that to generalize or look at other people in a certain way.
So that's a good point. Again, everybody should accept that it's a miracle, first of all, right? Childbirth, pregnancy, coming out, healthy mommy, healthy baby, it's a beautiful miracle.
Yeah.
It's a thing that we're designed to do, and we should accept the miracle of that design.
Yeah.
And the other thing you're saying is, don't use your experience to cast a generalization for everybody else.
To the point where you talk down or you look down people's
you look down on somebody else.
We need to be graceful in the way we relate these things, really.
I agree. And then something to that as well, just because we're talking about pain or no pain, I also think I've talked to people recently, some moms who find a bit of shame in saying that they had good experiences. And I also want to touch on that because, again, no two experiences are the same. I think everybody should acknowledge their story in totality.
True.
So if you had a good pregnancy, a good childbirth, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
That's because we're designed to do this, ideally.
True.
So I think nobody should feel shame, whether you had the experience you wanted or you had the one you didn't want. The shame should be dropped at the floor.
True.
Acknowledge your story and thank God for the miracle of your outcome.
I like what you said. So the take home is share your experiences.
Share your experience.
Gracefully.
Yes. Even though Toby might not believe that you had a pain-free experience. Even though you might not believe they had a pain-free experience.
I don't doubt that people have a pain-free experience. I don't doubt. You've read stories, of the people who don't even know they're pregnant and next thing. But all I'm saying is, it's the same God who strengthened you
Absolutely.
not to have that experience. And you know what people don't understand is you walk in different graces. So while in the area of childbirth, no pain, I'm not saying we must always feel pain for us to walk the Christian faith. But all I'm saying is that experience might be different for someone else, or someone might have, and it also depends on the level of your knowledge or certain, it's just like in the area of finances. Some people, there are laws, and there are people who never had, or in the finance area, they are graced. It does not make people who are not working in financial freedom less Christians. Everything is about your walk with God and how God is helping you in every area. So while you in childbirth, you're having an amazing time, there are other areas you might be struggling with. So what God does is all these experiences, there are people for it. So you who had, what you might term supernatural, because I also had supernatural childbirth, but what you might term as no pain, God is using that testimony for a certain set of people, because there are people who, just as you're saying, they cannot stand pain, they don't have threshold for pain, and God sends you to and say you can have a stress-free, pain-free childbirth, and that encourages them. I'm also encouraging other people by my own experience. You are also encouraging other people by your experience, but it does not make your experience supersede. It's also important to say that you can have that experience if you believe. So I think it's just to find that balance.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. There's so much to dive into that. I might bring you for a different episode. But thank you. Yes.
No problem. No, but you're welcome.
Okay. So we'll now move into postpartum. So how was it when it came to healing? When it came to feeding? Did you breastfeed? Did you formula feed? Support? Did you have family support? Did you hire support? What was that postpartum period like? And how was your mental health?
Okay.
Any postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, or were you good to go mentally?
Okay, so the first, so I would say that I always had support. So I had, our parents coming to support us. So I had my mom-in-law and my mom coming. My mom-in-law is a retired midwife, so she was very, hands-on with that. But, with these grandmas of these days, they want to go back to grandpa and, all that. So after a while, well, some of us, that's our experience, she had to leave. And so the first one, I had issues with her latching on. She wasn't latching on. And then the areola area is usually, mine is big, so, and their mouths are small. So when they try, they're like, I can't do this. And they went, wah! They just keep crying. So you have to continually offer them breast for them to now take it. And then, so it's always a chore the first week. But my husband is always, really supportive, and you usually start with NAN because it's CS, so you don't produce milk immediately. It is more like on demand. So the more they latch on, and if they latch on better, then they can.
The more you're able to
to breastfeed.
So you start off with NAN. You said that's the formula, right? Yes,
that's what that was like the most acceptable, and that's what we used. And so after first week, second week, they latch on like, this thing is good. So we just ditch NAN and they, suck on. So for the first, I did exclusive up to 7 months because I wasn't working. And then I weaned her at about 1 year, 6 months. After they teased the life out of me, why are you still giving her? Why are you still giving her? And I just felt she wants it now. You just give her. The second one, it was the same thing. 1 year, 6 months. 1 year, 6. Oh, I think for all of them, it's 1 year, 6 months. Yeah. Okay. I don't have a problem with breastfeeding, really. 1 year, 6 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And anything else you want to add?
So for postpartum depression. So when so it's like a party. Everyone has come, celebrated with you. Now it's just left with you and your thoughts. I won't call it postpartum depression, but it kind of affected a couple of things. So you have first my weight. I put on weight. When I give birth, I lose weight. And then with breastfeeding, I begin to gain weight. So losing that weight was a problem for me. And it affected my outlook to a lot of things. And I must say that, so I wasn't working with the first baby. It was after, I think at 7 months, that was when I went back to work. For the second, I was working. And it affected her. At 2 months, 2 weeks, we had to put her in a creche.
Your second baby?
Yes. And by the end of that week, we landed in the hospital. Because she was throwing up. It was a horrible experience. But God came through, really. At 1 a.m., we're looking for a free hospital to go into. And you can imagine having an infant and they're asking yourself, what am I chasing? But guess what? After that, by Monday, she was back to that creche. I let her to continue. So it's also about choices, because I had to call someone and say, am I doing the right thing? Is it worth it? But at that time, we both needed to be working. My husband was doing business, and then I had to work. And it was not easy. My husband even said, I will take care of her, don't worry. And then by the time I came back that day, feeding bottle was in the south, Bib was in the east. And then I said, okay. So the next day I said, oh, you take care of her. I said, no, she's going to the creche. I can't deal. But we learned. And then the early mornings of semi-solids, blending meals. To be honest, I didn't think I could cope. I didn't think I could go past that stage. But God just gives you grace. It's something about the human spirit, especially for a mother. You just know I have to do this thing and you do it. So it's not about how you figure, how much you have prepared for it. Nothing prepares you for some of the experiences you would have. Nothing prepares you for some of the experiences you would have. And then there were days I was looking if I was going to be able to reintegrate into society, because you keep giving of yourself. And I lost contacts. So I was talking about weight. It affected my self-esteem also. And because I always have quite a long tummy, so having to, and people are asking you go, and people are asking you, are you still pregnant? We, in the African society, we are not very emotionally intelligent when you have to deal with women or nursing mothers or mothers generally. We talk flippantly.
Talking anyhow.
Yes. And it affected me. And then the icing on the cake for the third, at the time I was supposed to go back to work, it was January. I had finished, maternity was 3 months. Let's not even talk about how certain companies treat nursing mothers. So I was supposed to resume work, and that was when my domestic help decided that she won't come back. So that December, January. And my husband had to go back to school. So I had to resign and stay with 3 kids all by myself. And that January was the longest my husband stayed away from Abuja. He will call, of course, but remember I told you that by the 3rd pregnancy, and one of the reasons I couldn't go back to work, we didn't have mobility. And I just looked at this child. How would I back you? And then, the weather was quite harsh. It was the Harmattan season, on a bike every day, to and fro, then taxis, then this, then that. And I had grown up with the mentality that as a woman, you have to be financially independent. So this is me. having to be dependent on not just my husband, on also God. It shook me. 2023 shook me to my bones. It shook everything in me. Oh, I thought by the first pregnancy I had seen, it shook me. It shook me. And then there were some businesses I started, everything flopped. Every single thing flopped. So I'll be by myself with the baby alone, and I'm asking God, did I make the right decision? Maybe I would have found a way. And you need to understand the kind of job I was doing, it was quite tedious. It's either I'd have resigned or they will kick me out, or that baby will suffer. And I had, well, I don't know if it's a feeling or if I did not take care of him. I don't know. I just felt that something would have happened. So I needed to take that time off. It was like as a sacrificial lamb, I had to be the one to stay back. And it hurts because I had plans, independent woman, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. So everything. But even with that, God just has a way of putting markers here and there to tell you that I'm here. I see you, I hear you, and I love you. So in that time, I do voiceovers. There was this client of mine who, he would not allow me rest too. Madam, I'll do voiceovers with WhatsApp audio and send to him. It's not, for those in the media space, it's not the most ideal thing to do. But he would say, it's your voice I want. Even before I gave birth, he would call me. And you see all those times he calls, those monies came in really handy. Those monies really came in handy. There was a time, it was almost every week. So there was something coming in every week. And I can imagine 3 kids, husband is in school, wife isn't working. And, that's the time that, prices of everything were just skyrocketing and all. So you had to be just you and these children. And trust kids, Mommy, I want this, Mommy, I want this, Mommy, I want this. And this is you. It was as bad as it was. Well, I won't say it's bad, though. I won't use that word. It's just experience. For almost... So we had gifts of, diapers and all. But when those gifts finished, to save money, we didn't have... I didn't buy wipes. To save money, I didn't buy wipes. So what I do is I always wash his bum with water and soap. And then you go out hoping that he won't poop. And then not even talk of the monies you would spend on Uber. It was, almost the whole of that year, it was Uber. It was even difficult going to church. It was difficult going to church because there are times we just stay at home. How do you need to sort out house, you need to sort out this. And during that time, we're running a business and you have to pay staff. So you have to pay staff and then you don't even have food at home. You have to keep the business floating. It was tough. And we moved to a new neighborhood. So, and in that neighborhood, I knew there were stairs. I'm sure they were wondering, this one that is always at home, backing baby, all that. But in all of that, I went for a leadership course. It was one Saturday once a month. And I tried, and I made sure I graduated from that leadership. I just said I needed to do something with my life. But I felt useless. I felt like nobody... I was wondering how I was going to reintegrate into society. So no voiceover jobs were coming. No, I couldn't even do anything with my life. I couldn't do anything with my life.
Now, I have a question, and I like that you said this, because I think it brings up a topic that I think is kind of big in our world now, in our feminist era, with so many things happening in our woke culture. You said you felt useless, right? And so many times I see these debates, mainly online, but these debates about, a stay-at-home mother versus a working mother, which one is more valuable, this and that. And I always find it honestly ridiculous, right? And I find it ridiculous because both people are working.
Yeah.
It's just that one is getting paid, one is not.
Exactly.
But both people are working. But I think that there is like a systematic effort now to make people who do the work of being in their home, raising their children in their home and managing their home, to make it seem like it's meaningless.
Yes.
And I think it's a very deliberate effort, because I think the bigger picture is that the more you demean this work, the less people want to do it.
True.
Because people like going where they are valued. So if you make the work of being in the home a less valuable thing in the eyes of people, everyone is going to run into the outside work, and they will leave that one.
And it will suffer.
So it doesn't mean people shouldn't go outside and work in the office, but I think we need to reorient our mindsets to realize that it is work happening everywhere.
Yes.
In the house, you're working, raising children.
Yes.
Outside, you're working in somebody's office. It's all work.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, you will think that this is meaningless, and you will think that the only value that you have is somewhere out here.
Yeah.
But C.S. Lewis has this quote that I love. He said, children are not a distraction from more important work. He said, children are the most important work.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying it now because I have a heart for how you felt. Because I think that's the message that people want women to feel when they become mothers.
Yeah.
That the work of raising your children is
True.
Is not valuable. The real thing is what's happening in the corporate world.
True.
I believe that's a lie.
That's
From
a
the
lie.
pit of hell.
That's a lie.
So I'm happy that you are sharing your experience, because I can have compassion for it, because I know that's the messaging that's being shared in the world now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a ministry.
It's a ministry.
Raising children is a ministry.
Motherhood is a ministry.
So my mom had a similar experience. So we're just two of us. She had my brother after 14 years of having me. 12 years of having me. And I remember she was in Bible school then, and when she had the baby, she was telling the dean of the Bible school that, I'm so sorry, sir, I can't be active in church, and all. And he said, no, don't you ever say that. Raising a child is a ministry. And I knew that for the boy, the formative years, God did tell me the boy is his, just for the sake of telling me. He said that because I believe I believe that for his formative years, especially that time, it was important that it was just me, like a Miriam Moses thing. It was just both of us at that time, and I needed to just be there for the boy. I don't know what would have happened or what the devil's plan would have been if I was chasing, in quote, money and all that. And just as you said, the devil wanted to sell me the lie that I didn't matter. And so every other external thing just seemed to have stopped. Even as much as even people greeting you. Everybody just looks at you like, oh, this one, And there were times I came to church and I just wanted to cry. Many times I just go to church and just want to cry. Like, is this life? I mean, what's happening really? Is this the end of the world? And all of that. So what also still kept me was good support system, and people who God just sends your way to tell you that you're fine. And then part of the thing that I struggled with was I was in debt. And I needed to pay up all the monies So how would I do that? I had an experience of a particular person calling me, and my heart would just skip a bit like, and I don't like to owe. So I'm like, how did I get here? But God, when I could feel that God was holding some people in their reins to say, I paid up, I paid my debt, I paid everything, but it didn't get to the point where I was disgraced or I was ashamed. And in all of this, people will know. And guess what? There are times that it is when there is at home, that is when we'll have visitors. That thing happens a lot. So when everywhere is dry, like there's nothing, nobody comes, then you just have, say, that 5 loaves and 2 fish, and that is when people come. And I'll be like, God, I see what you did there. So God just kept covering us. God just kept, covering us. I had an experience. There's this friend of mine. She's not in the country. And then she calls and says, I was in the bathroom. God says, I must send you money. And I'm like, okay, really? And she says, I told my husband, I must send Obi money, I must send Obi money. I'm like, okay. She said she felt it like a thought in her heart. It kept. And I was like, God, it just shows you're very mindful, really. You're really mindful. So I lost, myself. And I'm someone who I find strength in who I am, in, hard work, what I do, that gives me pride and joy. And then to go from that person to what you just said, like a housewife, in quotes.
Which you felt was a less than situation.
Which was a less than situation.
And I love the honesty. You felt that. That's what you felt.
And then you couldn't do like little things for yourself. Before whatever resources came in, you had to channel it first to the children before you even thought of yourself. So it was like for months you can't even make your hair, you can't do anything, you can't even you can say make certain decisions. No, I don't want. Why is this here? No, we need to buy this, we need to buy that. And I like it. I like that madam life. When you can just say, take my card, have you sort it out, And I couldn't. But I also, in that sense, felt betrayed at some point. Now, not betrayed by my own people, but, say like external people. Because I felt, is it because I'm not working anymore, I'm not valuable, or I'm not valued?
Not working outside. I'll keep reminding you, were still working.
Yeah, working.
You just weren't working
so it
in
just
an
seemed
office.
like everybody just goes silent. But it also taught me a lesson. Value is not what we attach to it. It's not what the world attaches to it. Value is, first of all, who you are in God. He didn't see me less from when I was working, in the secular world. I'm taking your correction. In the office. He didn't think me different. It was a phase. But I won't lie. At some point, I told him, are you sure you not live where you are and then come and, face things here? Because I felt let down. There are times I just wanted to travel, there was no means to travel. If I could, I would have. So you had to stay in that place. But God kept reminding me that it wasn't going to be forever.
Thank you. That part, things are seasonal. Sorry, I have to just touch on that.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we don't also know that as women, as mothers, that life is seasonal. Yeah. Early years is different from when your children are older.
True.
And you have maybe more time
to
do other things, to chase external achievements too. So I think, again, it's just that, it's the idea that people think when you become a mother, that somehow you have really just, your life has ended.
Fizzled out.
I absolutely don't like that idea because it's not true. It's actually just like a narrative being shared and people are buying it like they're drinking water. It's not true. Life is seasonal. So, yeah, I just love that you're sharing this because when you're with your children in their early years and they're smaller, that's a different season.
Exactly.
And if you decide to be more present for them and do the work in the home with them, you shouldn't feel it's less than.
True.
When another season comes, you can do other things too. For anybody who makes that choice is what I'm saying. They shouldn't feel they are ever less than in any season.
I agree.
Every season is valuable.
Yeah.
Wherever you're doing your work.
Yes.
Yeah, please continue.
And so I went through that season, and so this is a beautiful story. So in all of this, so by the 7th month, I get a job, but before that, someone calls me from the blues and says, hey, I'm doing some consulting work somewhere. I need you to come join me and assist me in doing this. And, of course, that's pay. And it's beautiful because she calls me out. She called me out of the blues. This was after, there is nothing that would warrant her remembering me, really. But she just calls me and says, can you do this for me? And that was just the beginning. So from there, I get this job. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was a stepping stone. And God says, take it. And okay, I took it. And interestingly, there was also a creche available, so I could put my son, which was also good, for me. And then next thing is, someone calls a family friend and says, hey, where are you people? Early morning, and by that time we're praying because I need to go to work. It's not close to the house. How do we commute? And then at this time, there's still no car. And there's no plan of buying one. Well, not no plan of buying one, or no resources at that time. To buy one. And then someone calls and like, hey, please come at 7 a.m. Where are you? Come and take this car. And I'm like, okay. Because it's something we had been praying about, And interestingly, we had actually dreamt that a car came. But of course, how? And, from my lessons of don't ask God how he wants to do it. He said he would do it. Thank him in advance. And that was how the car came. And, from then on, it just got better. It really just got better. It really got better. And, that season forged me. It was like me going through fire. And going through fire for a better season. Because it also helped my self-esteem. When they say, when you hit rock bottom, there's no other place to go but up. That's what happened with me. It helped me. I used to be a people pleaser. Yeah, I always want to please people. But you see that 2023 experience, it helped me. I would look into your face and I would nicely say no. And I learned. God was helping me build character. Also because of where he was taking me to. Because he knew where he was taking me to. I have to deal with people. I have to deal with difficult people. And I should be able to look into their eyes and tell them no. Part of my job is telling people no.
Wow.
So he needed to build me. And now, remember, I didn't have, like a domestic support system. And so that was another prayer point. And, there's something about having a heart-to-heart talk with God. And I need to say this. When people say they talk with God, I don't think people should see them as all these over-spirit cocoa people, those kind of things. It's real. I've learned that prayer is communion. There was a day I prayed in pidgin. I knew God felt it. Because that was the state of my heart then. That was the way I could capture my words, my feelings, my emotion. And I knew God felt it. So I told God, I said, God, I have done my part. This child is growing. I need someone who, I don't want trouble. I need someone who I'm not having to look over my head or having to sort. I'm done with that life. To be honest, I've had good people. Of course, nobody is perfect. But I said, God, I need someone who will love this child the way I've also loved him. You see everything. You know the heart of men. I might think this person is good and she's not. I might think this person is bad and she's not. And I don't want funny people. So the first person I get, funny person.
And this is a nanny, right?
Yes. And guess what? As she was leaving, word of knowledge came and said, let that person go. The person must go immediately because what was coming would have put my husband and I in trouble. And that was the day she left. I said, God, see, I used to do your work. I don't have time for trouble or police situation or all of that. And then God sent somebody. So she leaves and, it's instruction, go. December. Everybody tells me, you can't get someone in December. You know how it is now. It is in January. You have to be patient. And I said, no, I will get someone this December. And I told God, I said, I don't want, and disclaimer also, I'm not saying agents are bad, but my experiences with agents have not been good. So I knew that anybody God was giving me wasn't going to be through an agent. And agents had been telling me, wait till January. And I was being picky, really picky. So they'll send another, I'll just look at this one and say, hey, this one don't come and beat me at home. So different, just had different experiences until my friend reached out to someone who reached out to someone and they say there's somebody. in December.
So there was a nanny available in December?
Yes.
Last year?
Yes. And that was important for me because December is,
Busy period.
busy period. And that was how I got my nanny, and she's been with me. And it's not to brag on, she's someone who I can say, when you say God gave me this one, you know that God gave me this one. And because I knew that I would get busy, I knew that it was time, I knew that certain things needed to be done. And so, and again, as I mentioned, my husband was, in and out of Abuja. So I needed someone who I could trust to a certain extent. And so it all just, goes to the fact that God really is good. And then you said something about postpartum depression. I learned to speak to myself, to look myself in the mirror and say I'm beautiful. And I had issues because, with the tummy thing, I mentioned that. So even, you need to get to a certain state of mind to be able to even exercise. So I didn't feel good. I didn't feel there was anything. And I'm going to say, God bless the husbands who, irrespective of body change and everything, still just... And I'm not saying that's what is expected, but let's be honest, there are things that happen in marriage when it comes to, you expect that, okay, they should be there now, and where do you want to go to before? But I think beyond just being there, the fact that you still find your spouse, what's that word now? You still find them attractive. It's a beautiful thing because it helps the woman. I mean, you can't imagine dealing with postpartum depression and dealing with someone who doesn't even see you for who you are again. And, but just being there, saying, now you look good, you're beautiful. And, the person is not just saying it. It's real. You're the one even saying, no, this. And then having to, not to fit into clothes or having a bulgy tummy. I mean, that really was my issue, and having to change. And you know what? Something interesting happened. I was somewhere. The person just looks at me and like, how you know how to snap back after having children? I'm like, me? I had to look at her again. I didn't think she was talking to me. So while you see, and that's the thing, while you're thinking that, you're out of shape, somebody is thinking that your snap back or your comeback is really fast. So really, it's just perspective to life. And so that experience has taught me to be grateful. Has taught me to be grateful for every single thing. Like, every day is a gift. It's not a cliche. Every day is a gift. Every day is... I thought of suicide also. Yeah.
Like, I believe it's suicide ideation. The thoughts came to your mind.
Yeah. I couldn't bring myself to do it, but I thought of it.
And thank you for being honest.
Yeah, I thought of it.
Thank you for being honest, because these things happen.
Yeah,
and
I did.
It is part of what people go through at some time. So thank you for being honest.
But guess what? For every time I think about it, I say, let it not be that it's after you now do it, that's when your breakthrough will come.
So that's what kept you in check.
I just don't do this thing. It's when you do it now. That's when, that door opens or this door opens. So... I mean, I couldn't bring myself to do it that really.
I think the encouraging part of that for anybody watching is that if they deal with those thoughts or those thoughts ever show up in their life, they should know that they have the power to not accept that thought. Yeah. So you see what you said? You said it came to you as a thought, but then another thought came, if I do this now, my breakthrough could be right around the corner. What a shame, what a waste. So people should know that thoughts can come into our minds from so many different influences. What we watch, what we hear, how we're feeling, hormonal changes, whatever it is. Don't feel condemned because you have thoughts. But what you should know, as any human being here, especially as somebody who knows you are a child of God, you should know that thoughts coming doesn't mean that those thoughts must come to life. Yeah. They can pass through your head, and you can literally let them pass through your head. Like, you can talk to your mind. Yes. And of course, majorly using the word of God. Like you said, actually go back and tell your mind, this thing you're telling me, nope. Yes. I don't accept. Yes. Thank you for the thought. I know I'm feeling this way. I refuse it.
But it's not my reality.
It's not my reality.
And I need to say that The Bible says fiery darts. Those thoughts are like fiery. When they say the enemy chose fiery darts. Those are the darts, those thoughts.
Throwing it into your mind.
And I want to say something that what I also learned in that period is not to alienate myself or isolate myself. So even days I wasn't feeling too good, I go to, if I can't go to church, I join live stream. And you know what it did for me? It was almost like every time the word of God came, to say, you see that thing you're thinking. There was a time in church, it was as if every Sunday was for me. Every Sunday was for me, because I'm always thinking how this, how that. Every Sunday was for me.
Encouraging you, ministering to you.
Yes. So it's always important not to, when the devil wants to strike, even with predators, that's what they do.
They isolate.
They
always isolate people.
So it's not good to isolate yourself. Even from God, don't isolate yourself from God. There were times I'll take walks and I'll shout. I mean, thank God for the area I was in. I will walk and I'll shout. I will shout, I'll scream. Like, what is this? Why this? So I take walks. And I just, let it all out.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. As you're talking, I just have to make another biblical reference. Your story is reminding me a bit of like some of the experiences David had, right? So somebody was saying the other day, and it really stuck with me. The person said, we like referring to David as David, right? A man after God's own heart, which he was. And the person said, at the same time, you need to know that God has room to receive your emotions.
Yeah.
That David knew how to cry. Like if you go into the Psalms, you see somebody who was going through tough times, was crying out, was going through pain. He had sorrows. He even was depressed.
Yeah.
And the good thing was, in the middle of all that, he also knew to still keep going back to God and say, God, it is you that I need to come and step into this situation. Yeah. So thank you for that. Because you're showing us like you're walking with faith and you're going through human emotions.
Of course.
You're walking with faith and you're going through human emotions.
Of course.
But you kept making sure you go back to God. You go back. You find a way.
Yes.
You find a way. You're listening to sermons. Faith comes by hearing by the word of God.
By the word of God, yeah.
So you're showing us what it practically looks like to walk out in faith in the midst of challenges and chaos.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your story.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we're wrapping up. We're literally almost done. I have a little fun part. I think it's fun. It's the rapid fire Q&A. Really, really quick questions I'll ask. And then I'll just get your immediate response.
No problem.
So let me pull out my phone and ask them quickly. So first thing that comes to your mind. The first thing. If I can pull it up, if I can find it. Okay. So first thing, texting or talking?
Texting.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla. Chocolate is overrated.
Beach vacation or hiking trip?
Beach vacation.
Okay, me too. Favorite childhood movie?
That I have to think. True Confessions. It's actually a Nigerian movie. Yeah, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot too.
Okay.
Yeah.
A sound you love?
Water.
Water.
Waterfall, actually.
Okay, waterfalls.
Yeah, it's calming. It's refreshing.
One thing that always makes you laugh?
Good jokes.
Good jokes. One thing you do for fun and self-care? Is it a funny thing?
Food and shopping.
I'm with you on the food. I don't enjoy shopping. I like to receive
for
the
myself,
clothes, but I don't enjoy shopping. One thing you love about being a mom?
Trust.
Trust.
That kids trust you. They literally trust you with everything, and that you are able to mold their minds. So it's beautiful when you hear, "Mommy said." It's beautiful. It's wholesome.
The trust they have in you.
The trust. Yeah.
One word that describes motherhood to you?
Intricately beautiful.
That's 2 words.
One
Beautiful.
word can't capture it all.
Okay, I'll give you 2. Intricately beautiful. Okay, one thing you wish you had known before you became a mom about motherhood?
Well, I would have, I want to say, like I was prepared, but the thing is, you can't really, you can't get enough people. You have to experience it. You have to experience it. You can't be prepared enough.
There's nothing you wish you knew ahead of time, nothing.
I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And last question, one thing you want your children to say about you when they grow up?
Mommy is kind.
Mommy is kind. I trust that they will. Thank you so much, Toby. I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your faith walk. I'm so encouraged, and I trust that others watching will be encouraged too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, you made the conversation really easy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and at some point I even had to hold myself back. You can make people tell their secrets.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know. But I just want to say this is beautiful, and yeah. And I think you should also share your story at some point.
Oh, I have. I'm episode 1.
Oh, okay. Episode 1. I need to go back and watch it. Yeah, really. And even share more experiences, really, about yourself. Because I don't think women have wholesome channels to learn these things, especially the God way. We are in a society where we're trying to take the God factor out of everything. You cannot. That's the truth. It is. You can't. The Bible says you cannot be lukewarm. You're either hot or you're cold. It's either you're working with God or you're not working with God. Yeah. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching and tuning into this refreshing episode. Thank you so much. I'm so touched and encouraged by Toby's story, and I hope you are too. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and share with at least, I won't even say one person, but at least 3 people in your network. Let's spread these stories around. Let's spread the lessons we're learning and the best practices with as many women as we can to help more mothers on their motherhood journeys. Thank you all so much. Until the next episode, bye-bye for now.